Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering the absolute destruction of a game company called Ubisoft. Ubisoft decided they would literally bet their company on taking a huge franchise, Assassin's Creed, spend years and hundreds of millions of dollars making a game. But then just to keep things interesting, they played Russian roulette and decided to create a black samurai named Yusuke to be their main character for their game. No one was asking for this. No one who would actually buy the game was asking for this. Assassin's Creed is an incredibly valuable franchise. This isn't what Disney did with Star Wars. Disney ruined Star Wars, yes. It's not what Disney did with Marvel. Disney severely damaged Marvel and then created some new life with Marvel with Deadpool and Wolverine. What Disney did was different because that wasn't like one major project that they really were counting on to generate revenue. Ubisoft actually needs this money. They need this money to operate. They've spent a ton of money making this really ridiculous concept of a game, and they need it to be successful. The last edition of Assassin's Creed came out in 2020, and it was successful. That made money. This new release is getting nothing but negative feedback, well-deserved negative feedback, and the company is really headed for financial disaster. Their revenues are off 52% year to date, more than half. Let's talk about revenues at a company. If I cut your income by 50%, and I would never do that, but if I did, you'd have a problem paying all of your bills. But that's not the equivalence of cutting revenue to cutting income. Revenue is not income. It's all the money that comes in the door. In our personal lives, if I cut your salary by 50%, this would be like, what effect would that have on your discretionary spending? Like the extra money that you have to get crazy on the weekends. Would you go out to fancy restaurants? No, because you wouldn't even know how you're going to pay the mortgage or pay the rent or cover your basic bills. It's much worse to cut revenues in half than it is to cut personal income in half. In addition to that, their net bookings for games are down a third over the course of 9 months. Net bookings are sales less cancellations. That number should be going in the other direction, especially with a new release coming out from one of their major franchises. And the debt that this company is carrying is worse that they may as well be fugitives, going from liquor store to liquor store, robbing liquor stores to try to pay off the minimum payments on their debts. They have a negative 21% coverage rate of debt payments to cash flow. What that basically means is, if you're going at the end of the month and you're trying to say, look, I got to pay this credit card bill, I can't pay the whole thing off. How much cash can I get together to make at least the minimum payment? They don't have that. They don't have that handy. It's not coming in through cash flow, through the normal operation of the business. That's why their debt is up about 7% just in the course of 1 year, because they have to keep borrowing to cover those debt payments and their costs of operating. That is not sustainable. That can't continue. When Assassin's Creed Shadows fails, Ubisoft will struggle to justify their high development costs for this game. Right now, they're showing debts and assets equivalent to valuing this game at essentially what it costs to develop. When the game flops, they're also going to have to recognize that loss for their public shareholders to say, look, all the money we spent on this game, we don't think we're going to get back a fraction of it. Another loss they're going to need to deal with. Any investors in this video game company, if they haven't already lost their confidence, will lose their confidence. Right now, Ubisoft is in full damage control mode, trying to save Assassin's Creed Shadows, their latest entry into the long-running franchise. The game has been plagued with controversy, primarily due to the inclusion of Yusuke, a black samurai, as one of its main protagonists. Jonathan Dumont, the game's creative director, recently stated that players can skip Yusuke for any reason. This phrase has been widely interpreted as Ubisoft attempting to quietly acknowledge the backlash without openly admitting to a mistake. And you make mistakes, I make mistakes, companies make mistakes, employees at companies make mistakes. This is the level of a mistake you would think that no one could ever possibly make, but we understand there was a whole DEI push. It damaged a lot of video games. It damaged a lot of entertainment, a lot of the culture. It's being cleaned out now. But this move to gamble the entire company on a DEI corrupted classic franchise, especially targeting something that fans of Assassin's Creed have been waiting for, an assassin in Japan, something that people would really be invested in and related to and willing to spend a lot of money and time and energy on, that's really unforgivable. I'm not sure how anyone could believe this management could continue the way they are, and if someone was to acquire this company, wipe out the management, that would make some sense. Assassin's Creed, just like Deadpool and Wolverine, could bounce back very easily, but not with the current management team. And what the management team ought to be doing is coming out and saying 99% of what I just said. Look, we got caught up in a wave. We thought this was the right thing to do. We figured if we made a great game, no one would care that the main character is a black samurai that isn't really like historical, or that the black samurai character also had to be gay, or you can play him as gay. That was another headline. Apologize for what you've done. Apologize for disrespecting the fans, disrespecting your customers, violating the trust that a brand is supposed to always convey when you think of the name of something that you're very familiar with. They could do that. They should do that. That could save the company. It shouldn't save the management. I think the brand Assassin's Creed is going to be just fine because someone's going to buy it, inherit it, and treat it properly because there's so much value in it. But to make such a huge mistake and not admit that mistake to fans and customers who trusted you and invested in this brand is always the wrong thing to do. Especially because many fans had long hoped for an Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan, expecting a traditional samurai or ninja protagonist. Instead, Ubisoft chose Yasuke, a historical figure with little actual influence on Japanese history, sparking accusations of modern ideological pandering. And if that wasn't enough, beyond the Yasuke controversy, Assassin's Creed Shadows has been criticized for cultural insensitivity and historical inaccuracies. A major scandal erupted when it was discovered that players could destroy the interior of a real-world Shinto shrine, leading to formal complaints. Because destroying Shinto shrines is always appropriate. No, it's never appropriate. It didn't matter that you had Yasuke in there. So busy trying to promote specific cultures where they don't belong, but not respecting existing cultures where they do belong. Ubisoft also faced backlash for using the Sekigahara Rifle Corps banner without permission, and for releasing a collector's statue that bore a disturbing resemblance to Hiroshima's post-bombing Torii Gate. These missteps further alienated fans and fueled accusations of carelessness, because they spent all of their time trying to play to a different kind of cultural sensitivity, the kind that nobody is actually interested in except for the people that are looking to use that culture to destroy other cultures. Originally slated for a November 2024 release, Assassin's Creed Shadows has been delayed multiple times. The latest release date, March 20th, 2025, has drawn sharp criticism due to its unfortunate coincidence with the anniversary of the Tokyo subway siren attack. So if you want to celebrate a terrorist attack, a great way to do it would be to buy this game. That's what they've associated themselves with. Way to go, Ubisoft people. Ubisoft's PR response has only worsened the situation, as their dismissive attitude towards the criticism has infuriated players. A sarcastic social media post mocking customer complaints highlighted the company's unwillingness to accept feedback. With the backlash growing and investor confidence dwindling, Ubisoft's latest move to let players skip Yasuke feels like a last-ditch effort to salvage the game. However, critics argue that this concession is too little too late. No matter what they do to let you play another character, it's still Yasuke's game. That's how people feel. If you're expecting people to invest hours and hours playing your game, especially role-playing as the protagonist, the main character, there's no way to disassociate that for the brand damage that you guys have done. The Assassin's Creed franchise, once a titan of the gaming industry, now finds itself at a crossroads. Ubisoft's handling of Shadows could determine whether the series rebounds or continues the downward spiral. As the game's release approaches, one question remains. Will Ubisoft's latest move calm the storm, or is Assassin's Creed Shadows already doomed? Many believe the damage is done, and Ubisoft's credibility has suffered irreparable harm. Let's talk numbers. In their most recent earnings report, their revenues are down 52% year over year. Revenues are total dollars that come into a company. All dollars, before expenses. There is no company that is set up to have a decline in revenues of any kind, much less 52%. And as we already discussed, company revenues, very different than personal income. It's not discretionary. Out of 100% of company revenues, Normally, anywhere from 80 to 90% of those revenues are already spoken for as expenses, fixed expenses, variable expenses like offices, advertising, insurance, employees. It depends on the company, but you cannot afford to cut the revenues by 52% and have any kind of stability at a company. Ubisoft's drop in net bookings by over a third in just 9 months indicates that over a 12-month period, you can see some severe declines. Net bookings are sales less cancellations. Microtransactions, downloadable content sales, subscription sales have all seen double-digit declines. And something like downloadable content sales, extra content to upsell, like, do you want fries with that when you're at McDonald's and they sell all these extra fries? What a great business for any video game company, for any company that has the opportunity to sell that way. The customer's already there. You may as well sell them something extra. And when it comes to digital content, the profit margin on that is astronomical. They're losing that opportunity because they decided to play Russian roulette with what should be a multi-billion-dollar franchise. This means Ubisoft is failing to sell both new games and retain existing players, a devastating combination. Ubisoft's debt situation is already out of control, and it gets significantly more and more difficult to borrow more money when it's clear you're having a really hard time paying back the money that you already owe. To continue in business, Ubisoft has already shut down 4 production studios making games and begun layoffs in multiple subsidiaries, though the full details of their cutbacks are still unknown. And to make things even worse at this company, their recent investor call contained numerous contradictions, with executives spinning early reactions to Assassin's Creed Shadows as overwhelmingly positive. In reality, that's absolutely not true. And if you're an investor that knows the industry a little bit or is even a game fan, they know that's not true. Why would a company lie this way? Only for one particular reason, because they know that if investors understood what was about to go on at Ubisoft, they would not be holding the stock in this company. And that's not financial advice from me. I'm just saying it looks really bad. What Ubisoft ought to be doing at this point is speaking to a very wealthy investor that is very interested in their franchises, or whatever it is that they actually have to sell. Someone else should purchase Assassin's Creed and do right by the franchise. I don't know what the value is of their studios. I don't know if there's any value whatsoever. The management team that made this happen certainly should not be involved in any way in this business or these franchises ever again. It's not like those guys have anything to contribute. Look at some of these recent headlines for Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows. From That Park Place, Ubisoft sparks fears of financial collapse and alleged investor deception as Assassin's Creed developer works hard to spin financial ruin as a positive. Also from That Park Place, Ubisoft desperately tells players they can skip playing as Black Samurai Yasuki, quote, for any reason in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Japanese Shrine demands removal from Assassin's Creed Shadows after Ubisoft depicts its destruction. And from Pink News, Assassin's Creed Shadows confirms main character can be played as gay. Well, that's going to sell 0 copies. It's actually going to sell negative copies. People don't need the association with this. And clearly this is something they did not have to do that they never should have done. And if you're wondering if fans are excited to see this game come out, from Game Rant, people are vandalizing the Wikipedia page for Assassin's Creed Shadows protagonist Yasuki. And from That Park Place, leaked Ubisoft internal email comments on recent layoffs and studio closures as company stands at the brink of financial collapse. My prediction is ownership and management will change at this company. It will take a few months, it will take a year, not that much longer, but this game is clearly going to bomb. And the company needed it to be a blockbuster hit just to keep going in the wrong direction. That's not going to happen. And for this company, yes, it's game over. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you want to help me make even more videos, subscribe to the channel and become a paid member today.